PR Connections Radio presents. This show is brought to you by Paid Per Letter. Write letters and make a difference. paidperletter.com/Uncle Dan.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the PRConnectionsRadio.com Marathon. This is a quarterly event that we host here at PRConnectionsRadio.com for your viewing enjoyment. My name is Guy Dawson, and I am the founder of PRConnectionsRadio.com. We are the voice of new media. And again, I greatly appreciate the opportunity to be a part of another one of these marathons. Happy Memorial Day, by the way, for all of you out there. And of course, for all the people who lost their lives serving our country. I think this is a very important weekend for us to honor the people who serve or who have served. And I hope you are enjoying your holiday weekend. The PR Connections Radio Network is the culmination of many, many years of development in terms of the upgrades in technology that have happened over the last, wow. I started personally as a broadcaster in 2011. I had a radio show on an AM radio station, and that was the beginning of my broadcast career. So now you're looking at, I guess, 13 years that I've actually been in broadcasting, and the things that we're doing at this network are really just the evolution of the growth of new media. And when I talk about new media, again, I mentioned that when I got started, it was traditional radio, and just to see that we've been able to take essentially the elements of a large studio and condense them into this platform. It's just fascinating, the growth of technology over this time. And with these marathon events, we really like to give you an opportunity to see the shows on our network, to meet our hosts. We have a variety of different concepts that these hosts share. And through this marathon, you get a little piece of all the different types of shows that we provide here at this network. And of course, you can always check out these shows at prconnectionsradio.com. The things that I'm going to talk about today are going to be related to personal and professional development and the way that it has tied into the growth of this network from my own experience. As I had mentioned before, starting out as someone who was just a radio broadcaster, essentially, I had the opportunity back in 2011 that was presented to me to host a radio show at a local station out here in Las Vegas. And it was a real eye-opening experience for me. Being a public relations and marketing company at that time, I had been running a PR and marketing company called Classy Communications for about 3 years. And essentially, as a public relations person, a lot of my time was spent working with clients. I've always understood the power of media and how valuable it is when you are in public relations. You leverage the partnerships that you create with media are so important in terms of being able to find venues for clients to be able to share the things that they do. And so I had lots of relationships with people in print media, radio stations, TV stations. So I could see it. It's one of the first things that you do as a PR person is you try to figure out how to find placement for your clients so that they can get more exposure and for the things that they do. And so having that opportunity to do that on the public relations side, and then being asked to host a radio show, PR Connections. It was a good friend of mine named Bruce Garrett. Big shout out to Bruce Garrett, by the way, who's out there. He is really my broadcasting mentor. I mean, he showed me the ropes very early on. He also instilled in me the bigger picture when it comes to media, the real power that we have in terms of transmitting different ideas through these platforms. And so back then, we didn't have Facebook Live. We didn't really have very much video streaming pretty much, but there was internet radio. And that always did intrigue me, even back then. I could see the future of internet radio, even back in 2011, because I just had this thought that there's going to be a time when people will be listening to this AM radio station that I'm broadcasting from purely on the internet. And of course, there we are here. I mean, here we are now. It's 2024, and yes, people still do listen to radio via being in their car or actually on a radio. But I think the majority of people nowadays listen to radio via the internet. But the possibilities were there. It's really interesting when you're talking about evolution and you're talking about growth and seizing opportunities. For me personally, it's really a lot of times about seizing it in itself. And when I was hosting this radio show on a consistent basis, I saw that the people who I connected with, this is before podcasts even really, or there were very few people that were podcasting back in 2011, but I noticed that you really could build a following just by being on the radio on a regular basis. And so what I was doing was really sharing a lot of tips about how to be more successful in marketing your business, how to use public relations and concepts and marketing concepts to improve your business or your organization. And one of the things that I wanted to discuss within the scope of this today is, number one, the internet offers incredible opportunities for those of you out there who want to have your say. With the development of platforms such as this, we're able to reach audiences all over the world through social media, through the website that we have. It really breaks down a lot of barriers that existed in the past when it came to media. In the past, you had cable stations. Yes, I remember. I've been on the planet long enough to remember when we didn't even have cable stations. You only had a few stations on the air, and then you had a few radio stations, and those were your only options in terms of media. But now, again, with all this digital equipment, the digital software that's available that allows us to even put on a show like this, streaming platforms, social media platforms, being able to share this information across multiple social media platforms, as well as, again, people can just go to our website, prconnectionsradio.com, and watch these shows at their leisure. It just is boundless opportunities. And I just want to encourage all of you out there, if you've got a business that you're running or a nonprofit organization, or if you've just got a voice and you want to get it out there, the platforms are certainly available in order to do that. What we've created here is something that pretty much anyone can create. As a PR person and running this network, the unique aspect that we bring to it is that we have the marketing savvy, and that's but you can grow and you can develop that too. The number one thing is just consistency. I mean, I want to weave that into my talk today, is really the power of being consistent in all of your endeavors. Specifically us here at PR Connections, we are very consistent in providing a lot of content for all of you. Our whole process, the way that we've developed this network, again, using multiple social media platforms, empowering other podcasters to want to grow, right? To want to leverage a platform like a podcast to have their say, and then creating an environment that allows them to be able to consistently come on the air, share their ideas with people. It's very appealing to people. And it's the consistency of the message. I'm going to kind of circle back to a lot of my experiences as a PR and marketing guy, is that I have seen over the time, I've been in business for 16 years on the public relations and marketing side. And of course, as I had mentioned to you before, I've been podcasting for a long time. So I've been involved in these things for a number of years. And what I have seen is that the people who are the most consistent in getting the word out about what they do ultimately win. And sometimes these people may not have even the greatest of messages, in terms of what they do, but it's just the consistency of getting it out there, because I have found that so few people consistently market themselves, consistently share what they know how to do, is that when you're someone who does that, you really stand out like a sore thumb. There are a lot of people who feel that they've got to get it perfect, right? In terms of, they got a podcast that they want to create and develop and market to people, and they've got great ideas that they want to share. They're an expert in their industry, or they just are really good at connecting with audiences. But that perfectionism is one of the things that can sometimes hold you back. Perfectionism can be the enemy of consistency, because when everything has to be perfect, all the conditions have to be perfect, very rarely in life do we encounter that, right? All of us, the worlds that we live in are imperfect. This network, the things that we do here, it's imperfect. Of course, we're constantly striving for excellence, the pursuit of excellence and competency, and really wanting to create great programming for all of you optically, audio, from an audio perspective, the type of content that we're providing. We want it to be entertaining. We want you to enjoy your experience watching the shows here at prconnectionsradio.com. But again, if we are overly focused on all the conditions just being perfect, we'd never be able to provide the amount of shows that we're able to provide for you here on this network. So I think that entering into your endeavors, be they promotional or otherwise, I think having that mindset of developing consistency, that so much of the growth that you will have and so much of your effectiveness in developing products or developing services or creating great relationships with the people who can nurture your success, so many of those things are based in, more than anything else, just consistency, just being a person that people feel that they can depend on. And we look at our network like that as well. We want to, and we strive to be a network that you can depend on for great information based on all the different types of shows that we have on the network. We've got some incredibly insightful people who do these podcasts. We've got Katie Wechter with Watching Mental Health, which is an amazing show. I started talking to Katie about Watching Mental Health back in 2020. We were in the middle of the pandemic, and I have been friends through networking with Katie Wechter for many years. And I reached out to her and I said, you know what, Katie, I'm developing a network here. That most of the development of PR Connection started during the pandemic, because I had a lot of time on my hands and I was looking for a vehicle online that could serve people. And I reached out to Katie and I said, hey, Katie, you're a writer. You're someone who's really passionate about helping people improve their mental health. Would you be interested in having a show on the network? And it took a while before she and I actually were able to work it out. But now here she is on the network, providing just fantastic information that really is changing people's lives. Mental health is, again, it is something that is very underrated. The importance of having good mental health is something that isn't talked about enough in our society. And so for us to have that type of show on the network, we feel like we're providing value. But again, for us to be able to do that, as I said, we have to create the context that allows her to be able to host her show. But then we also have to be engaging with her to help her to be consistent in presenting the show. The more often she's able to come on the air, she has some phenomenal guests that she brings on. Our hope is that you'll connect with some message out there. It could be a life-changing experience just watching one of her podcasts and so many of the other podcasts on the network. But again, this is all contingent upon us being consistent in our efforts. So how can you become more consistent in your efforts? We're specifically talking about media here, but being someone who runs a business and is involved in a lot of different things where I'm a part of teams, helping to develop people, consistency, of course, I really think is the number one thing that sets people aside. There are lots of factors, of course, that make people more successful in their endeavors than others. But I do believe that the one driving force that can't be understated is just that consistency. And how are you consistent? From my experience, one of the best ways to become more consistent is when you're trying to develop a habit. Consistency is a habit. I was just thinking this morning about my own life, and I remember back in 1999 when my son was born. I got a son. He's 24 years old, and I remember when his mother was pregnant with him, and that was the first time that I ever got a cell phone. And for those of you back in 1999, not everyone had cell phones. Like now, it's really a part of everyone's lives is having a cell phone. But back then, it was something that, yeah, quite a few people had. And I decided my son's mother was pregnant at that time. I wanted to be able to stay in contact with her in case anything happened when I'd be away during the day during her pregnancy, and I got a cell phone. And it was the first time that I ever had a cell phone. And I was just thinking today that I have had the exact same cell phone number since 1999. And I think that when I'm talking about consistency and developing certain habits, for me, that type of consistency, a person who I might have been talking to on the phone back in 1999 can to this day, right? So this is almost 25 years later, that person can use the exact same phone number to get in contact with me. And that I hadn't thought about it in a while, but that is a part of that consistency, just being able to that reliability. Consistency and reliability go hand in hand. And so I think that in order to start a habit like that, you start with relatively small, insignificant things. So you wouldn't think, right, keeping the same phone number consistently would be that big of a deal. But I mean, I know lots of people who've had 5 or 6 different phone numbers during the time that I mentioned before, that I've had this one telephone number. And again, this doesn't make me like this fantastic person. It's just I've tapped into certain, there's certain things that you see. You develop really, really simple habits that escalate. And it's really, I think, when you start small in terms of developing habits, that's the cornerstone of it. So this to be really super, super simple. One of the things I think that causes people to be inconsistent is that they have the ambition to develop something or to reach something. But the challenge is that when you're striving towards goals, the achievement of goals are usually the result of the development of a lot of habits consistently. And I know I keep referring back to that word. It's, again, such an underrated word, I think, in our society nowadays, just that simple word of consistency. But as you start to develop these habits of consistency, you begin to achieve your goals. And there's a lot of confidence that comes with goal achievement. And I can, speak to the development of this network, this being pretty much a 13-year journey until we've gotten to this point where, we're able to provide this broadcast. There have been so many twists and turns that I have experienced in broadcasting, changes in technology, relationships with people, but the one thing that I have been committed to is becoming better at broadcasting, becoming better at content creation, becoming better at developing teams, working with people, looking out for the best interests of others, growing personally so that I'm the type of leader who can create an environment like this where we can continue to evolve and grow as a network. And it's really a lot of simple things. I know at the beginning of my broadcasting career, I was only doing a radio show once a month. So for the whole, I think it was March of 2011 was when I got my first radio show started. And I just did a once a month show. Well, after the course of the year, I saw that there was so much potential in media that I decided to get a weekly show. And then from the weekly show, then I started doing some internet television. I ended up moving to an FM radio station, and of course, media has continued to evolve to the point where, like I said, in 2020, I had made this decision that I wanted to create this network, PR Connections Radio. And again, it was small steps. So if you want to get more consistent at doing anything, I would really encourage you to just take small steps at the very beginning and get very proficient at small steps. For me, when I was just starting to do radio, I didn't have a background in it. And so I had to learn how to write out production sheets. For me, that was really important because that kept me focused. When I would have guests who would come on, I would sort of map out the way that the show was going to go, and then I would follow that map. And it was that consistency, the wiring that came through doing it over and over and over and over again, helped me to become a better broadcaster so that my transitions were smoother. I sounded more professional with the things that I was doing again, but I didn't just jump in and just have a skill set like this. These were just week after week after week after week after week doing shows and trying to get a little bit better. It's about always trying to get a little bit better, being in the pursuit of excellence at all times. And a lot of times it tends to be incremental growth. Sometimes, though, you do have these massive growth spurts. And I encourage you, when you're in the middle of a massive growth spurt somewhere in your personal or professional life, just milk that for all it's worth. Because, yes, I have had monumental, massive shifts in my growth over this time that I've been in business and in my personal and professional life. And it can happen that way. You can have massive growth. That can happen in a very, very short period of time. So I'm not saying that you shouldn't be expectant that things could really, really pop in a hurry. But in the meantime, until that happens, that very well can happen. Usually the massive growth is a result of a lot of consistent efforts that lead to that. All of a sudden you see this massive amount of growth that happens. And it's usually small steps that lead to that. But if it just happens from out of nowhere, embrace it. Milk it for all it's worth. And then know that there's always another level that you're striving towards. But if you're consistent, if you suit up and show up every day, I had a very good friend years ago. Actually, he still is my friend. His name is Kevin Kelly. And Kevin Kelly was a lightweight boxing champion. He actually was a world champion. And he and I used to work out at a gym probably maybe 10 years ago, maybe even longer than that. So I spent a lot of time with Kevin, and I've always been someone that I like to get around successful people and ask questions. And so with Kevin, we used to be on the elliptic machine a lot, and we would just be hanging out, and he'd be talking about his boxing career. And at that time, I think he was even being like a boxing commentator, and he was a personal trainer. The guy's just been successful in so many different areas of life. And one of the things that Kevin, I asked him one day, I said, man, what sets you aside from other people? What made you a world champion when there are so many people out there who are fantastic boxers or who want to be world champion boxers? And I'm sure there's a lot of people out there who were more talented than you. And what was the thing that set you aside from all of them? And I mean, the very first thing that came out of his mouth was, I was just always really consistent. Whatever it was, when it was training, it was my diet, it was sitting and watching film, every aspect of boxing, I just tried to be as consistent as I could in my pursuit of it. And so again, when I see someone who's a world champion, or I'm talking to someone who's a world champion, and they cite that as the key to their success, it was something that I had sort of an understanding of it, but then talking to him and other people, really just sort of cemented that in my brain. Really just the value of consistency. And that, again, consistency doesn't have anything to do with talent. It doesn't have anything to do with your upbringing, the amount of money that you have. You don't have to have anything other than a willingness to keep at it never, ever, ever quit. I mean, that's been my philosophy throughout my business life, and in my life in so many other areas. And I've just found that it's really lent to a lot of fulfillment in my own life. So just being consistent. We're consistent with these marathons. We have a chief operations officer, Dana Wall Oakley, who's a phenomenal leader. We work together along with our team to put these marathons on, because we want to consistently provide this content for all of you, because we've got a big vision of where we want to go with this network. We want to be one of the premier streaming networks on the planet. But we know that the key is in something just as simple as doing a marathon every quarter, organizing it, airing it, all of the elements. And Dana does voices later on in the marathon today, but the evolution that she and I and the rest of our team have had is we've just been figuring out how to put on a better marathon, how to be more efficient. It grows the professionalism of the network, and it's, again, moving us towards this big goal that we have of being an entertainment leader and providing this great information for people all over the world, as we already are. We just want our audience to grow, our following to grow, our company to become greater. And again, we greatly appreciate all of you who tune into the shows on the network for contributing to all of that. But okay, so the marathon is not going to be all about me actually today. We've got other shows that you're going to be watching throughout the day. We've got the professionals. We've got Evelyn's Roundtable, Vegas Hockey Hub. We've got a brand new show that we're going to be airing later on today with my good friend Sid Maestri, Thinking into Results. And so again, we hope that all of you just enjoy spending time with us this Memorial Day weekend, watching the marathon, binge watching prconnectionsradio.com. So the first show actually is going to be the Business of Giving podcast. And that is a podcast that was developed through the Cause Marketing Chamber of Commerce, an organization that I'm a part of that brings businesses and nonprofit organizations together to create synergistic relationships that benefit the community. And we like to showcase givers in our community, people who are professionals or are in business, but who also believe in giving back to their community through all types of service. And so I'm going to exit now, and I hope that you enjoy this broadcast of The Business of Giving.
PR Connections Radio presents.
Hi, everybody. Welcome to the show. Thank you for coming in and watching. We have a special guest named Taija today who's going to be sharing her journey, but I'm going to let her go ahead and introduce herself before we get started.
Hi, my name is Taija Williams, and I reside in Las Vegas, Nevada.
Thank you, Taija.
Okay.
If you want to tell us a little bit more about what you do and anything else that you'd like to share before we get started with the interview questions.
Okay, well, I do a few things. So you want me to start from the beginning with my social service and then move on up to current date?
Great. Okay, that sounds great.
Okay, yeah. Well, my name is Taija Williams, and I have a bachelor's degree in business and a master's in public admin. And I just kind of fell into social services at a very early age, and I really loved it. I started off as being a deputy probation officer for Los Angeles County. I worked in juvenile detention, so I was working in the jails with the youth, which I really love. I fell in love with the youth. It was amazing. We had some very high-profile cases out of Los Angeles, but once you get to know the kid, it just warms your heart. It's like you can't believe that these youth are doing some of the things they're doing.
Right.
And it was just amazing with that. And I got into program management after that. I was program manager over sex traffic units. I was program manager over gang intervention, the 18th Street and the MS gang. Some of the worst gangs in Los Angeles are the most notorious gangs, shall I say, in Los Angeles. And me being an African-American woman, being a program manager over that, I thought it would be difficult, but actually it wasn't that bad. I did homeless youth, drug addicted youth. So I've homeless youth. So I've probably worked in every program that's geared toward youth and social services.
That's amazing. Honestly, I think that they picked the right person for the job, since you said that it was something that you found comfortability in and you were able to navigate through it.
Yeah.
So I think that that's amazing. You mentioned that the youth had some stories, what were some things that they're doing that you said
As
that they
far
were working?
as far as their crimes or
Oh, okay. That's why I was wondering, because you said that they've been doing a lot. So I wasn't sure if you meant that they were doing like their own little side hustles on the side, or if they were just like you said, they were there for a reason. Uh, was it what did you mean by what the youth are doing earlier?
well, just saying like when I would first meet a youth, if I didn't read his chart, I may not know he committed murder or he shot a parent or molested his
Okay.
sister, things like that.
Okay, yeah. So I didn't understand what you said when you said that. I thought you were saying that they were doing big things, like they were trying to better themselves in some ways when you were with them, when
Oh,
you were.
absolutely. I had those also. I have a quick story. I had a girl. I was doing I was supervising the girl unit, and there was this girl. She was always fighting, always in trouble, and her grandmother was elderly, and she used to catch 3 buses to come see her on every Sunday.
Mhm.
And she brought this to my attention like years later, and she told me as I was walking her to visit her grandmother, I told her, you need to get it together because you should be taking care of your grandmother, and your grandmother should not be traveling 3 to 4 hours on a bus to come and see you every Sunday. And she said that stuck in her head, and she vowed to take care of her grandmother when she got out. Well,
Oh,
years later, like 5 years later, she found me on social media. She contacted the Department of Probation, and she invited me to her college graduation from Northridge College in California.
that's amazing. That's actually a big example of how words matter. Like
Yes.
one sentence can either change your life for the better or for the worse, and you never know what's going to what where it's going to take you. Uh, who you meet that's going to tell you something that's going to encourage you to do something else. Which gets me to wonder, what inspired you to start working as a deputy and then in working with the juvenile detention center?
I just kind of fell in it. I think it was my calling. A
Okay.
friend of mine, uncle worked at the probation department. He's like, hey, we're hiring. Everybody come take the test.
Right. I mean, that makes sense.
Right. Only 2 of us passed. So I was like,
Oh,
okay, I
wow.
knew what I was walking into. And when I walked in that jail and those doors shut, I was like, oh my gosh, what did I get myself into? And I fell in love with it. And that was been my goal, my journey for the last 25 years.
I think it's beautiful because when we graduate, we don't know where life's going to take us next sometimes. Like even though we have it all planned out and we know what we want to do for our next step, we end up finding something even better that fits our personality better, especially when we do interviews and we see what works for us. I think that's great that you found that, and I'm actually curious if you could elaborate on any key principles that you learned throughout that experience that you want to share to help other people that may or may not relate to the things that you've seen, or that you want to share some advice, basically, if you
Yeah,
had any.
that's but my experience working in the community, you just said it. You never know who you're gonna meet, and you never know how your words are gonna impact someone. And I think we as adults, when we run into these youth or we see people acting out or we see people down on their luck, whether it's an adult, a man, a woman, a child, certain words can be so uplifting and so encouraging. And I think you
Right.
take that moment because you never know when you can change someone's life.
Yeah, exactly. I agree with that completely. Especially when they're in that situation, like everything you say in that moment is going to encourage them to better themselves in the future, or it's really their choice in the end at the end of the day. So, I'm curious, what are you working on now? Are you still working at the juvenile detention center, or are you doing something different right now?
I'm totally doing something different. When I relocated to Nevada, I was working at the juvenile prison here. I worked there for about 3 or 4 years.
Okay.
Wasn't a fan of it because I came out of the California system. So I figured you have a business degree, let's get this business going. And then funny story is like I'm getting too old to be fighting with kids. But it's an inside joke. You know, we have to sometimes wrestle these kids down. We having pepper spray and it's just a lot. So I love travel. I absolutely love travel. I've traveled many places in the world, and I had an opportunity to become a travel agent and have my own at home-based travel agency. So I do that, and I also was able to purchase a franchise. So I
Okay.
own a commercial cleaning business, which is my go-to, and my travel agency I'm building now. It's growing like crazy, so I'm always booked and busy.
So you would say that that travel agency that you decided that you wanted to start, is it the clean, just to connect the dots here, is that related to your cleaning business, the travel agency?
No, they're two
Okay.
totally things, two totally different businesses.
All right, cool. That's good to know. So it does your travel, we'll start with the travel agency first. My question for you there is, does your travel agency influence your personal travels, since you said you love to travel?
Yes, because being a travel agent, I get so many perks. I get free trips, I get invited places. And if I book my own travel, I get paid. I get paid a commission for booking my own trip. So absolutely.
Yeah, that sounds awesome. And do you guys do you know how another person, does your company want more travel agents, or like
Yes,
if
we're
someone?
definitely building. We're definitely building. We're looking for agents. I think you have to be the age, I think 16 and up to become an agent, to become certified. It takes about an hour, maybe 2 hours of online training to become certified. It's so easy.
Okay, and then what exactly does a travel agent do, if per se?
Well, if somebody called me and said, hey, we want to take a trip, I'll just get the basic information. Like if you was to book a trip for yourself,
Okay.
flight, airfare, hotel, rent a car, theme parks. We have access to concert and sporting events, villas, like you name it, excursions. We're like a one-stop shop. And I know a lot of people say, oh, well, I could just do it myself. But when you do it yourself and you're booking on certain sites, you pay those sites a pretty hefty commission.
Right.
And if something goes wrong, you can't really call those sites. You can call me directly and I can get you out of whatever situation or take care of whatever problem you have immediately.
See, I love that you decided that you wanted to go that route, and that you started that business all by yourself. And then
Mhm.
was it by yourself? I just me assuming that it was a little by
But we
yourself.
have an agency.
Oh, okay, okay. So you're
There-
working for an agency?
I'm sorry.
You said you're working for an agency? I couldn't hear you. Got cut out a little bit.
We work for a host agency. So I'm an
Okay.
independent contractor with the company.
Okay, that makes a lot of sense. Okay, okay.
Mhm.
So I'm understanding. All right, well, that's cool that you did that. And then for your cleaning business, is that a personal business that you started, or is that also part of a third party?
Yes, I purchased a franchise with a very large janitorial service here, well, throughout the world.
Okay,
Uh,
okay.
so that's how I kind of fell into that.
Okay, that sounds awesome. I think that with your experience in that, would you have, is there a message that you'd like to share with us about that experience, or are there any other services that you share that you do as well? Aside
No, that's it's just basically travel and my commercial cleaning business.
Okay. And then is there anything that you'd like to share with us about that experience that you've had when you did you start the cleaning business first, or the traveling business first? Which one did you start first? And what was your experience getting started with that? Right.
I started the travel business first. The travel business was more like kind of like a side gig. I really got into travel to work my perks, to get the discounts for the traveling that I was doing.
Okay.
And when I wanted to kind of get out of the working in the jail, I said I have to figure something out. I have to find something out. Didn't really know what I wanted to do. And I have a couple family members that also own commercial cleaning businesses. And they have a pretty good lifestyle, shall I say. And I
Did
was
you?
like,
Oh,
I
sorry.
was like, look into this, let me see, maybe this is something for me. And I did my research, I looked into it, I talked to the people, and I was sold. I bought in.
Okay, so you answered that question, because I was going to ask, did you enjoy the the previous position you were in with the juvenile detention center more, or do you enjoy your position here more? But it sounds like you're enjoying your position a lot more now. At first you were uneasy about it. So did this kind of find you as well?
Well, let me say this. I really miss the youth. I miss working with the youth. I'm looking to get involved, maybe do some volunteering with the youth as soon as I can get everything together to free up some time. I mean, I love it, but it's like the long hours, this 10, 12, 16-hour days, 5-6 days a week. It was too much. With the cleaning business, way more profitable and probably one fraction of the time that I actually have to work.
Yep, it sounds like it's much more time management. You can manage your time a lot better, because then you're saying it's like some of it's work from home, right? Or majority of it is actually work from home.
Well, the travel is work from home. The commercial cleaning, I have a team that I've hired, so they help me with the cleaning. I can send them out, and I don't even have to go. I just need to make sure that they're there and the job gets done.
Okay. So for working with the youth, because you said that you mentioned you like to help the community, what events or things have you done in the past that you'd like to share, that you've done and that you're looking forward to doing in the future, per se, something related?
Man, I've done so much with the youth. Like we did, I participated in what they call like gang ceasefire night, where we would have all the gang members come to a park and we would host a big like family picnic and provide food and clothing, and you know, no one was to get hurt that day. All gangs would need to be a truce for that particular time. I've held Mommy and Me Day. Actually, I kind of implemented the Mommy and Me program when I realized working with the girls, a lot of the girls were mothers and they weren't able to have contact with their children. But once I was able to implement that program where the babies were able to come to the jail and spend some time with their moms in a little safe, kind of like the rec room. They weren't
Right.
actually the actual jail cell with the mom, but they would be in the rec room. Fighting went down. The girls' behavior improved. They were successfully doing well in school. They were getting out on time or getting out early, because they knew if they got in trouble, their visit could be canceled with their child. So they made sure that they maintained excellent behavior.
That's amazing. I honestly think that you're such a brave and inspiring woman. To you not only see a need, but you also put yourself into the position to be able to assist those, any situation, really, those type of situations that you see need some assistance, and you're just like, hey, I can put in my 2 cents and be useful in this situation. So you decided, you know what, I'll just go ahead and do that. And not a lot of people do that, really. They don't sit and listen and see the need to make a change and navigate anything that they can do to spark it. Change is very difficult to spark. You got to be a very strong person.
Mm-hmm.
Do you have any advice for anyone who's interested in doing similar things to you?
I think you just have to be open and you have to be understanding and you have to listen. You can't come in prejudging anybody. Everybody you meet should get the same respect. You should demand respect, and it just kind of works itself out. You respect them, they respect you, and with the population that I work with, respect is the number one thing.
And that's very true. And honestly, I think that what you said is very important, because those three things: listening, understanding, being open to things, and demanding respect, or just having respect for others in general. Those are things that are, I feel like almost everybody is missing either one, two, or a lot of those.
Right.
I do have some advice. Like if it's coming to listening, like I used to struggle with listening to others. And I probably still struggle to it now, because everyone's different. So when I first started struggling with that, it was kind of hard, because I was seeing the world going a lot faster than the way that they were viewing the world. So when it comes down to the psychology of how our brains work and how everyone perceives the world differently, you come across a lot of different people, especially when you're working in the jobs that you were working, and you see that every word matters, like you were saying, and every interaction is going to be different. There's
Mhm.
no interaction that's going to be the same. And that's why when you're saying that we demand respect, that's like another version of it. Demanding respect for me is also another one I struggle with. Like, I don't sit there and ask people to respect me. I just get really quiet. And sometimes you can't stay quiet in all situations. You have to be able to defend yourself, or not even just defend yourself, just stop them in their tracks, because you don't know where they're going to be heading.
But the key to that is your delivery.
Okay,
How
so you got
you say
advice.
it, the
Go
tone of
ahead.
your voice, and your delivery can make or break that situation.
That's very true. And it's just hard because every situation is different. I think you would be a great coach for people. Yeah, there's some coaches out there where they'll listen to what you say and they'll tell you how to navigate through. Life coach, a great life coach, if anyone's ever come up to you.
Okay, that might be the next job.
You could do it right now. No, just joking.
Right.
Well, it's really cool to see what you're working on, and how you're navigating. Is there anything that you want to share with us before I get to the next part of this interview?
No, let's go.
All right. So the next part of my interview questions is that you say you have two businesses that you're working on, and the times have changed a lot. How are you using social media currently to navigate your way with your businesses, getting customers or clients, or just finding people that you want to work with you?
I mostly use my social media for my travel company because my business, my commercial cleaning business, is just kind of on autopilot right now. I have enough contracts, have enough workers, um, and I don't really need to grow it through social media. I do use it to show pictures of our work on different things that we do clean. But as far as my travel, I post flyers. I have a flyer now for a group cruise that we're doing in November, leaving out of New Orleans. I post my travels. When my clients post their travels, they'll tag me in it. So that's basically what I do for my travel social media.
And do you use Facebook, Instagram? What's the social media platform that you're on right now that if anyone wants to reach out to you, be part of that travel agency?
Yeah, I my Facebook is Let's Roll Travel.
How do you spell that?
LETSROLL Travel.
Okay, Let's Roll. Gotcha. Okay.
Yeah, my kids came up with the name. They said, "Mom, every time we go somewhere, you be like, get your stuff, let's roll." I'd be like,
Oh,
"Let's."
you're a mom too.
Yes, 2 adult children.
Oh, wow. Okay. And then how old are they right now? Oh, you got cut out there. Oh no, I can't hear you. The audio's got cut out all of a sudden. We're having some technical difficulties. Well, if you guys are watching so far, if you're interested in becoming a travel agent with her company, you guys can go ahead and go to letsrolltravel.com, and she'll probably have some employment opportunities available on there. I'm not sure though. Don't quote me on that. As well as I'm just going to ask her about her cleaning business to see if you guys need any cleaning services, or if you want to work there as well. She'll go ahead and let you
Oh, there
know.
I go. Is
Oh,
that
there
it?
we are.
Okay.
So I was telling them that they could reach out to your website if they were looking for employment. Was I right?
Yeah. Well, as far as not employment, as far as for the travel, if anyone wants to become a travel agent, I do train and mentor.
Okay. Oh, you are a mentor.
Yeah, I will train
I
and mentor them and get their travel agency up and running. Absolutely.
definitely got the mentor vibe from you earlier. I said you should be a life coach. I was like, she'd be a good coach in some way, shape, or form. Okay. Oh, go ahead. Go ahead.
I said I have enough jobs.
That's great that you're a mentor right now. I was just saying that I was envisioning you when I was talking to you. I was like, I really see her as some type of a coach. So when you said mentor, I was like, okay, she's got it. She's got it. She's got it taken care of. For the people who are interested in going to letsrolltravel.com, you said that they could use that website to reach out to you, right?
Yes, and that's my Facebook and my Instagram.
Okay, awesome. And in terms of your commercial cleaning business, where can they find that?
The name of that is T as in Tom, K as in King, D as in David. So the website is info@tkdenterprise.com.
All right. And then what should they expect when they go on that website?
Just some of the work that we've done. If somebody has a building that needs to be cleaned, they can go to the website and we can come out and give them a free quote. They can request a free quote.
Okay, that's awesome. And then I think that I just remembered that earlier when I was asking you about what you were getting involved in the community. Do either of your businesses, like your travel company, for example, is it also doing something in the community? Like, are there any events related to these businesses, or are you planning any events and related?
We don't have any coming up soon, but we do have an extension to our host agency called Evo Cares. And we go out in the community and assist the community, whatever the needs are, the particular needs are for that particular time.
Oh, that sounds amazing. Where?
Sometime we'll go out and assist the homeless if that's the need, or Mother's Day, maybe do a Mother's Day event.
And you guys did a Mother's Day event recently when you told me about the mothers, or was that just something that you did in the past?
No, something we did in the past.
Okay. I was just curious about that. Yeah, that's amazing. How do we get into contact with you for the Evo Cares?
Just through the travel agency, Let's Roll Travel.
Okay, and then does it say the date of that event or that time frame that you guys are going to be doing that? Does it say that?
No, I would have to connect them to that.
Okay. All right. Well, that's great. So if you guys want to reach out to see, like, if you're interested in anything, go ahead and reach out to Taija Williams, and then she will be able to navigate you to that. Thank you so much for your time today, letting us interview you. Is there anything you'd like to share with us about any future plans, projects, any advice you'd like to leave us with, or anything related that you'd like to say?
Yeah, future plans. Like I said, I'm looking to connect with some organizations to where I can volunteer that are out in the community, preferably the youth, because that's my targeted market. And I'm just looking to get more involved.
Okay. And when you say organizations, what specific organizations are you hoping to connect with? Is just youth organizations that deal with the youth, or is there a specific type?
No specific type. My spectrum with youth goes from one end to the other. So I just want to continue working with youth.
That's beautiful. I love that. And I think I've interviewed a few people on this show that maybe we can hopefully connect you with. Maybe you can be able to connect with them and see where you guys can join forces, almost, I would say.
Okay.
Well, thank you so much for your time. You're an amazing person. I think that what you're doing for the community is amazing, and what you're doing for yourself to grow as well. You're doing a lot, and I think that what you're doing is just, it's awesome. I think that you're finding something, you're passionate about it, and you're helping. I like that your goals are to help the youth even more than what's going on now. And yeah, that's awesome. I think that's great. I also got I was going to share this earlier, but I got my master's in public administration as well. I don't know if I lost her because it went black, but if it did, but
all right. Yeah, I'm here.
Okay. Did you hear what I said?
No, what you say?
I was just saying that I also have a bachelor's of arts in a business related field, economics, and a master's in public administration. So we're more similar.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You're a numbers girl.
Yeah, we are. We're both in the same boat. I love it. And I love that we're both getting involved in the community as well. Yeah. Yeah, you're doing great stuff, and I'm excited to see what you're gonna do next.
I'm excited too.
All right. Thank you so much, Taija, and I will see you guys later. Thank you for watching the show, and thank you, Taija, for joining us today on the PR Connections talk show.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.
PR Connections Radio thanks you for watching this podcast. Check out more episodes of this show and our others at prconnectionsradio.com.
All right. I hope you enjoyed that edition of the Business of Giving podcast at prconnectionsradio.com, the voice of new media. And I'll give you a little bit of more background about the business of giving. And again, I am so enjoying the opportunity to share this show over here on this network. The Business of Giving show actually began as a result of this chamber, as I mentioned before, the Cause Marketing Chamber of Commerce. This platform has really created a great opportunity on the audio side. So we've got a show that we do at UNLV, the University of Nevada, Las Vegas, that we host on a regular basis. And it is an audio, again, the audio version birthed the video version. So we created the show so that it would create opportunities for businesses and nonprofit organizations to come on and share about things that they do. FM radio is just a phenomenal platform. And as I had talked about before, it's great to see the evolution of that in the last few years now. Of course, most people watching on the internet, but we have a host of nonprofits and for-profit businesses that stop by to participate in that show. And again, with the Chamber of Commerce, I know in my monologue that I did at the beginning of the marathon today, I was talking about just developing opportunities and the power of media. And so as we had done the audio show for about a year, I started to think, boy, wouldn't it be great to create a radio version of this show? Or something beyond the radio, a video version of this show. And so we decided, I started working with Basma Awada, who is a fantastic person on many levels. So it's definitely someone who's very committed to the community, wanting to help people. And so bringing her over here to do the video version of the show has been incredibly helpful on a lot of levels. And so, again, I'm just really excited week after week to see her growth as an interviewer, the excellent guests that we're able to bring over to the network. And just so stay tuned. This show airs on the weekends. And it's just a great platform, again, to learn more. You know, the Cause Marketing Chamber of Commerce is something that kind of grew out of the development of PR Connections to an extent, because through media, again, I'm constantly just talking about what a great platform media is, but I met a lot of people as a result of doing radio shows and the television shows as we were starting to develop the PR Connections network. And through that opportunity, it was really instrumental in me knowing the people that helped us to start to create these events that eventually led to the growth of the Chamber of Commerce itself. I mean, by the way, if you want to learn more about the Cause Marketing Chamber, you can visit the website causemarketingchamber.com to get more information about it. All right, so we've got another show that's going to be coming on the air. And Andrea, if you can hear me backstage, could you remove the last, would you remove there you go, Andrea. And that will allow Penny Tyndall to come on. As I mentioned, we got multiple podcasts that we're going to be sharing with you today. One of the podcasts that I created during the pandemic, it was an overall personal and professional development platform, and it's called The Professionals. And The Professionals was created to start networking opportunities for people in the pandemic. One of the things that happened that shocked a lot of us who were in business, I know myself in particular, was the inability to be able to go out and physically network with people as we had been able to do in the past, because we were all on lockdown and couldn't network with other people. And it was a great opportunity. I know for me personally, I had been, years before the pandemic happened, I had been trying to figure out how to network online. But networking online was not, well, for me personally, it was so much easier. One of the reasons why I never had figured out how to network online was because it was so much easier to just go out and physically network. But when I didn't have the option of doing that anymore, it just seemed like an excellent opportunity to learn how to network online. And so me and a few other people developed this platform called The Professionals, and we created a Facebook group. That was really the origins of The Professionals, was in the Facebook group. And through the evolution of that Facebook group, yeah, Andrea, is there any way that you can remove the presenter? You see the Business of Giving podcast. If you can remove that particular, if you can remove that, that will allow Penny to be able to come backstage, because right now there's too many. Yeah, she's not able to maybe come. Yeah, there you go. Perfect, Andrea. So back to my topic of The Professionals. Through this Facebook group, we really grew. The platform evolved on many levels. We were hosting all types of webinars, and through that growth, the development of the podcast, The Professionals podcast. I personally was doing all of the podcasts at the very beginning. And then I had a very good friend who was actually living in Romania at the time, called her name is Christina Stefan, wonderful woman who became the second host of the Professionals podcast. And so literally live from Romania, she had friends all over the world who literally started participating in the Professional podcasts. And she was covering a lot of topics related to public speaking, social media, business development. And it was so rewarding to watch her really take the concept and run with it through this podcast. And through that again was the beginning of the evolution of the network. And the evolution of the network was kind of running hand in hand with the evolution of the Professionals. And so we've had several hosts of the Professionals throughout the last couple of years. And now, of course, we've got Penny Tyndall. She's doing an outstanding job. Really looking forward to seeing her podcast today as a part of this marathon. But yes, again, we have such a varied assortment of content on this network in terms of professionalism. Out of this developing of this networking group, it really created opportunities for a lot of business owners and professionals to connect. As I had talked about before, I'm such a big believer in professional and personal development. And so when you create these networks where you get people together, they can talk about their experiences being professionals, all the peaks and valleys that a person experiences when they decide that they're going to go into business or that they're going to be a professional. It creates a lot of opportunities for collaborations. I made a lot of great friends I know personally, and I know many of the people. By the way, if you want to become a part of the Professionals group, please go over on Facebook. We'd love to have you as a part of that group. We've got big plans of other things that we're going to do, and this podcast really figures into the development of those plans. And so, yeah, if you'd like to learn more about what we are doing with the Professionals group, please go over to Facebook and you can join the Professionals. And so I wanted to, ladies, do we have Penny Tyndall? Is she on the way to the studio? All right, so I guess she will be here in just a minute. I see her guest is backstage. You know what? I'm just going to go ahead and bring Heather, because I know Heather, and I'm just going to bring her on stage really quickly here, and we'll wait for Penny to arrive. How are you, Heather?
I am doing well. It's great. I was listening. It was great.
Yeah, all right. There she is. There is the woman of the hour, Penny Tyndall. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to back out of here. Welcome, Penny.
Thank you. It's nice to see you. Happy Hawaii. Yes.
Yeah. I am back in town in here, and I'm going to go ahead and remove myself from this podcast. and enjoy an edition of the Professionals. Andrea, how about I'll back myself out of here and you go ahead and run Penny's intro. Sound good?
Oh,
All right,
are you going to interview me?
Well, I've already got everyone on stage now, so yeah. How about
okay.
we'll talk after? How about you and I? We'll talk after the podcast.
Okay.
How about that?
Thank you.
All right, sounds good. I'm going to remove myself, and Andrea will run your introduction.
Okay, thanks. Hi, my name is Penny Tyndall, and I am the new host for the podcast called The Professionals. We will be broadcasting this podcast live every first and third Wednesday of the month at 10:15 a.m. Tune in and learn about local businesses and their innovative minds behind them. Each episode, we will journey through the unique stories of our neighborhood entrepreneurs and nonprofits and uncover the passion, the challenges, and the triumphs that drive our local economy. Join us as we explore how dedicated individuals are crafting not only vibrant enterprises, but also are more connected to our local Las Vegas and Henderson community. Stay tuned. I'll see you soon. Penny Tyndall. Hello, hello, Las Vegas. I am Penny Tyndall, and I am your host for this afternoon. Happy Memorial Day weekend and our weekend Memorial Day marathon. So I should have worn my sweat headband and my wristbands because I'm in a marathon. I've been training for it for the last 5 minutes. So anyway, so let's welcome Heather Safekin. She is with Safekin Consultants. And we were just talking before the podcast, and we were talking about an opportunity for businesses to get possibly free money. Did you even know that you can get free money, grant money? Right now we have our expert, Heather Safekin. Please go ahead and explain how businesses can jump in and learn about the grants that's out there.
Definitely. Thank you, Penny. And just so everybody knows, I have been in the nonprofit and the business sector for about 20 years. And I started writing grants about 20 years ago, and then professionally 4 years ago, and found that there are many business grants. And this is why I'm so excited to be here to talk about that, because most people, like Penny just said, don't even have a clue. If you're a base entrepreneur that's starting out, there's grants for you. If you're a business owner that has been in operations just a little bit, there's grants for you. And even in long term, and you're ready to take your business to the next level. Go for it.
Go ahead. No, I told you the little side story that I went to a local business and they got a grant and they didn't know what to do with it. And that's when I got excited. And when I heard Guy Dawson had spoke to you before, I was like, I've got to get her on this marathon. And hopefully we have a bunch of business owners and organizations that can use your services. So why don't we talk about maybe the different type of grants that are out there and what the opportunities may be for the local Las Vegas Henderson residents.
Great. Yes. So I always say if you don't know what a grant is, essentially you submit an application to, and this is where I'm going to say what the different types of spaces that are offering grants. Either it's your local or federal government, or local foundations. It could be national foundations that have money and they are focused on a specific change within society. And a lot of times it's really uplifting different communities and different people within communities to uplift them into a different space. And right now, this is where it's exciting. I recommend looking at your local SBA. Why did I just blank? What does SBA stand for? Small Business Association. I was like, wait, I know SBA. Anyway, they have grants there a lot of times. If you go to your local chapter, then they can guide you to see if there's some local funds or federal funds that you could apply for.
So I think that I even was told that you can go, I mean, they're not going to like hold your hand like you can help, but I think you can also go to some of the Chamber of Commerce's. Is that correct?
Yeah, some chambers you could go to, and they'll have at least relationships that you're building. And that's another thing, is that the more relationships you build, the greater you'll have access to potential funding. I'll back up a little bit, Penny, because I got ahead of myself. The different types of funding that are available, I want to touch basis on this right now. And this is something that anybody could do. If you go to, it's a website called Hello Alice, and it is designed specifically for small business, and they have grants on there, and they have lots of resources for you too. But I look at the grants. They also have like grants, like the FedEx puts out a grant. You can look at a lot of business, like really successful businesses that are out there, and they have foundations, and those foundations want to support certain causes, especially if they're focused on entrepreneurship. So Hello Alice is a great place to start. Go ahead, Penny.
No, I love that, because this podcast for professionals are just like with Guy, cause marketing, building community, advocating for the community. And this is what really grants are for. It's supposed to be a positive thing, not only for the business, but for the community, correct?
Correct. Yes.
Yes. Okay, perfect. And so now if I'm a startup business, because a lot of businesses that I've spoken to, a lot of them started up because COVID happened and people pivoted. They changed their thoughts, or they decided they want to be their own entrepreneur, and they jump in, which is great, but then they realize it takes money. So these grants can really help them out. So how can you help, newer businesses? I mean, people can start this from day one, like a startup, and even start it later on in their growth cycle, correct?
Correct. Yep. There's different types of stages that you can apply for grants. And right now there's a high amount of dollars being supporting new entrepreneurs, and specifically underrepresented individuals in business communities. So let's talk about what underrepresented means. It really means people of color, women, as a large piece of what that underrepresented means. Ethnic backgrounds that are not currently doing business or have or are business owners. And so that's where there's this whole society is kind of saying, let's make more people that don't currently have businesses have businesses. And that's where these grants come from.
Well, I mean, it's really the American dream. I mean, both my parents were Greek immigrants. They came here. I'm 100% Greek. And what did they open up? A Greek diner. And I just learned today that my father was, he ended up doing very well with our 24-hour diner and in New Mexico. But he was so into community involvement. And back then they did not have grants. But I did find out he was the president of the Salvation Army. I remember me at 10 years old ringing the bell, but I had no idea why I was ringing the bell. I just knew I had to do it. And we would feed people during the holidays, part of the Salvation Army, but I did not know that he was the president of my small town. So this is great news. America is about the small businesses. And I feel like so many things, we got the big guys, the Walmarts, the 99-cent store, all these big conglomerates, and now they're starting to fail, right? 99-cent stores just closed down.
Yeah.
So many businesses are closing down. So now people have an opportunity to get this grant money, but there are deadlines, there's requirements. Everything needs to be concise, right?
Correct. Yes.
That's why they need you,
Yeah.
right?
It can be super daunting. Some grants are simple. They ask you basic questions like, what's your purpose? What's your mission? You need to make sure you have that clear. How much are you generating per year? And then there's some that require all these documents they require, because it depends on how much money you would be applying for. If you're $10,000, grant's probably going to be fairly simple. If you get into the hundreds of thousands and millions, then there's many more requirements. And
So, yeah, so you're saying that the purpose-driven, research-driven, developmental driven, the grant that I heard about it was very specific. The target audience were special needs folks or seniors.
yeah,
It was for a bed bug grant, and it was a pest control company. So I didn't know really about that. I just was asking them, oh, you got an infusion of money. How did you get that? And that's when I learned more that there was, regular businesses getting these grants, right? So give me the idea of the 5 most common items that you would need as a business to get a grant, but to look for a grant.
Yep. And so this is just to tell you what to prep for. You have a mission and a vision. And when I say vision for a business, it's more, what problem are you trying to solve? Because most businesses are created out of solving a problem. At least for grants purposes, that's what the funder is going to look at. What are you trying to solve? So having that defined, your budget. So many times I have worked with small business owners that actually don't have a budget. They're just in it, the thick of just moving along. It's time to create a budget. What are all your expenses? Basic stuff, right? But that needs to be figured out. And then 1 to 3 years of financials, if you've been operating that long. That means your taxes, right? And then what's your sustainability model look like? This is huge. Business owners that are smaller, they don't always think about, and I shouldn't say all of them, right? But many are so much in the trenches that they're not thinking about, what is this going to look like for me in 5 years? How am I going to scale? Do I want to scale? If I don't, there's lots of pieces, but having that sustainability model and knowing that you're going to be in business for the next 5 years, how does that look? And then the question is, how much money do you need and why do you need it? Because a lot of times we think we just need money to help us, but that's part of doing the budget. It helps you figure out why you need the money.
That's so true. The last podcast I had a financial planner, and what he said, he is your advocate. And I was so surprised because even myself, I am like the trenches. Sometimes I just work and time gets away, and then I sit down and I said, did I make money? Am I going the right way? Or am I just running in circles? So is that something that you can help a local business? Like, do you sit down and help them create, maybe not the budget? I don't know what you do, but what would you do? Like if I said, I've been in business for a year, I'm not really making money, but I'm very passionate about these things, and you find a grant for me, what would you tell me? If I say I really don't have a budget, I just know I'm paying my bills. That's all I'm doing.
Yeah, well, I would help start you to walk you through. Let's look at what bills you do pay. Let's build a budget. It's amazing what I have found I do with grant writing, because in order to answer all the questions and help my clients answer all these questions, I become an expert in business, because nonprofit or business, you're still operating a business. And you need to have all these things in place. So it's interesting, Penny. I started a masterclass about 3 years ago, mostly for nonprofits, and in the last year for businesses, to learn how to write grants. But what I quickly realized is that it's mainly to help a business write their business plan. And that is what we just walked through. These 5 basic things that a business has to have for sustainability and success, but to write a grant. And so it's this compilation of many things. So you hire me, or I work with you in any capacity, or you find somebody else, doesn't matter, but they should
Right.
be supporting you through that process of building your success plan.
You know, that I'm going to tell you that this is important. It's kind of like gets me because when me and my husband, well, my ex-husband, but still father of my children, we decided to open up an auction house because we loved going to auctions. He was a lawyer. I was an excellent salesperson. I knew how to talk. I got my auction license. Hey, we're going to do this. And we went to the small business, the SBA, and they said, where is your business plan? And my husband said, I'm a lawyer. I know what I'm doing. I know the legal requirements. We got a license. We're ready to rock. Can you give us a grant? And they're like, you have to come up with a business plan.
Yep.
And so we kind of winged it, and the economy tanked, and we tanked with it. And we had fun, but then we did not have a sustainable business model. And people came back and said, I don't know why you weren't successful. You had amazing auctions. You had the people. Because I always said an auction is action with you in it, right? I had the people. I had the product, but I did not make the money because I did not plan accordingly, right? So how do you get businesses, how do you explain business to business people that maybe worked and got paid an hourly rate or a salary to understand that entrepreneurship is actually more planning, more budgeting?
And
Is
it's
that correct?
mindset. I will say right now, it's mindset. I was for years the employee mindset. And if anybody is starting a business and has not heard of this book, but Robert Kiyosaki and Rich Dad, Poor Dad, I highly recommend reading it. There's that and called Cash Flow Quadrant. You read those two books and it helps you understand. And it's a mindset shift, right, Penny? From being paid employee, you show up, you do your job, you leave, to being a small business owner. And there's solopreneurs, and then there's also business owners that have employees and beyond. And when you're by yourself doing all things, you're paying yourself, you're doing the bills, you're doing all these things, you can get bogged down on that stuff. And if you don't have the mindset to carry you through it, that is my number one that I say, I will ask people that are starting their business, okay, have you been around people who have had businesses, have owned them? Because mindset is number one before anything else. And knowing it's going to be hard. Sorry, we're going into a whole bunch of other stuff, but it's really important when you're writing a grant, because when you're writing a grant, the person on the other end, I was a reader for the city and county of San Francisco for many years. And you have to know that when you're reading something, somebody's asking for money from you, that you have to have the confidence that they're going to deliver what they're saying they're going to do. And if you can't convey that, then they're not going to give you money.
Yes. And that's why, as a salesperson, I talk too much. And so like what you said, you have a deadline. Number one, you can't miss the deadline, and you need to be concise with no typos. So you need to have someone that gives that second, third look. So they know that number one, you answered all the requirements, right? And so it's overwhelming. I mean, this is a word that I really never used, overwhelmed. I never really had that because I've always had the energy. But I think that our mindset now, after COVID, more people use that word all the time. I'm overwhelmed. I'm too busy. Too busy for what? To run your business?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, exactly. So I love that you said it's for minorities and everything. And I've heard of, like when I opened my auction house, it was me and Randy, but I was the president, right?
Yes.
So as a woman, that's a woman is a minority business owner, right?
Yeah, exactly.
I feel there's more businesses that are women owned. Do you know if there's a statistic on how many more business owned?
It's
I feel like,
I do not have that statistic. I wish I did. And it is an increase. And here's the other piece is that by being women owned or minority owned, federal government and local state governments, you can get certified that you are. So, for instance, I am 51% ownership of our company. My husband is 49%, so that I can say I'm woman. It's woman owned. We can get
right.
certified. That also gives you priority points if you're looking at getting contracts with the government, or if you're looking at federal government grants. There's grants and contracts, right? But it gives you priority points and points, and they're more likely to go with you because you're either minority owned or woman owned than if you are not. It's just part of the equalization of America.
And then with regards to minority, like, is it a certain percent? I mean, like when you do the standardized tests or the questionnaires, it will say, are you Hispanic? Are you, whatever. And I end up being just white, right? Because I'm
Right.
Greek, I'm just an American, but I am a woman. So I can get the points for being a woman.
A woman. Yes,
Right?
exactly. Yep.
So, like, I am thinking, we've been talking about how the housing crisis, Las Vegas is definitely having a housing crisis.
Yes.
Not only because of the interest rate, the rental rates have gone up. There are not enough housing. I mean, even the state is creating housing. Do you think, like, are there grants out there right now when you look on the list, let's say more locally, that I feel like the local grants are easier than the federal grant?
Yes.
Is that the case?
100%. Thank you for asking that and clarifying. Local is better when you're first starting with grants.
Yeah. And if you're thinking of a concept, like for me, I have 3 ladies. We really want to do, like, help people get into rentals because the deposits are high. We feel that the need of the younger generation are living with their parents because they can't afford to move out, and they're in their mid 20s, they're staying in. The seniors, they can't afford. I mean, this is a common problem. So for some person that wanted to do, like, they have an idea, they don't have a business model, can you help them find some kind of grant, like a startup grant? Because there are people out there looking still to be part of the community and to, help in some way. So how would they do that with you?
With me, and that's the thing, is that if you haven't started a business and you have an idea, you're actually in a better place for grants. There's a lot more grants in that space than if you've been operating for 1 to 2 years. It's amazing. I don't fully know exactly why, except I think that it's to generate, it's just to really enhance economy. But yes, I can help you with that, the beginning space of that. And there are grants that will actually pay for your going through either building your business plan or paying for your registration for your license, your LLC, all of that stuff. There are businesses you can apply for that funding.
Great. So is Nevada a great state? Is Nevada a entrepreneur friendly state? Because I know some states are not.
Yes. Reno, I know more in Reno. That's where I live. And there's a huge business base here and supportive business environment. And I think that there's a similar in Las Vegas. Have you found that as well?
I think so. But the thing is, if it's Nevada, I mean, of course, you could look in if there's a Clark County or Lee County. I know the pest control, they have to go to all 5 or however many counties there are, but I know they talk to me about 4 counties. They have to spread it. They can't do it all in Las Vegas and Reno. So they have to go to Ely and a couple other more remote locations to fit the requirement. So you have to be willing to, fit all the requirements, correct?
Yes, correct. And there's, you kind of pinged something else for me, is that there's actually quite a few grants for rural communities, small rural communities outside of our major, Reno and Vegas areas, that there's a lot of grants for that space as well.
Yes, and you know what? A lot of people are moving to remote locations again. So Mesquite, Pahrump, Laughlin,
Yeah.
outside of Reno, possibly Sparks, Nevada. I've been there. Places that Nevada, we're still no tax.
Right.
And it's still a great place to live. So you feel confident that if somebody here in Las Vegas or anywhere in the state of Nevada, you would be able to help them. Would you be able to help folks in other states?
Oh, yes. I have clients all over, for sure. Yep, I do. And a lot of times it's supporting with the startup of their business, or it's in terms of grants, it's grant searching for those grants. That can be really, really difficult. I do a high level search, and then they can do deep dive, or I can do the deep dive. There's lots of pieces like that. And I did want to share, Penny, there's about 4 or 5 different areas that I've seen come up that are really common right now for grants in terms of so resources, natural resources like energy, solar. That is a space for businesses to apply. A lot of times it's a little bit bigger business, but that is one. Animals in general, I feel like there's a lot of funding.
I would love to do. Well, everybody got a pet during COVID and then they went back to work. So when you talk to a veterinarian or whatever, they all say that they grew their business minimum 30% plus the shelter. So yes, I am big in animal, definitely something that we all need. So that's good to know. So that's one. Number 2, what's another one?
And then you actually said it, the arts. Arts is huge. I cannot tell you how much money is being pumped into the arts. Artists, sorry, not just art education, but there's artists, struggling artists. I think that's what maybe during COVID, something came out of that space too. But just making sure that what I see is that, and mental health. So these go together, right? So mental health, I think people are seeing that art and those, like music and actual physical art, there's so many pieces there that are healthy for mental health.
Yes,
anyway,
wellness.
Those are two separate things, but wellness and mental health is another large category. Yes.
Well, you know what? Now wellness, it's not a bad thing anymore.
Right.
Your mental health is so important. And in my publication, I always have a mindful minute. Give yourself a break. Give yourself a chance. And it's okay when you're not okay. Yep. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
And like you had talked originally about mindset. And I think businesses need that right mindset. And they need to have a reset button. And they need to have a pivot button. So this is great for businesses that might be struggling but have kept good relationships. But I think this is a great opportunity for people that want to jump in with both feet to starting a new business. You would be able to help them out possibly. Right?
Yeah.
Okay, so we would love for you to take the time to tell us how people can get a hold of you, or if you have any events that they can come on to. This is your time to, kind of tell us what we need to hear from you, Heather.
All right. Thank you, Penny. The easiest way to get a hold of me, and I should, is, you can see my name up there. It's Heather Safkin. And my email address is heather@safkin.com. Super simple. If you want to get a hold of me, you can email me, ask me questions. I also that's probably the easiest in this platform. I also have, go ahead.
No, go ahead. You also have, sorry.
Well, I was just going to say about what I have coming up And that is, I will be doing some webinars that are about business grants and supporting individuals in that space. And then I have a masterclass that's coming up in August that will be all around business plan, business grants, setting yourself up for success. And that is about 8 weeks long, and it's 2 hours each week for 8 weeks. And you, by the time you're done, you have your full business plan written and you're ready, and you have a deeper understanding of grants and what, where you can get the grants. I give you a few that you can write, and you essentially write a base template as you're going through the course. So you're ready to go.
I am going to sign up for that. So to sign up for something like that, is there an incentive if we can sign up, before the end of the month? And what is the date that this 8 weeks starts?
Yes. So on my, let's see. I have a link on my website, which is Safekin Consulting. Actually, just go safekin.com. Safekin.com. And you should be able to see my dates on there. I don't think I have a on the waiting list, like waiting space,
Okay.
but you can register and you can sign up.
Okay.
You had one other question there. What was it?
Well, what was the cost? Like,
Oh, yeah,
they
that was
want to
it.
jump in, like number one for maybe just a consultation. Is it free the first time, or also if they want to just jump into this like me?
Yes. So there is an earlier bird cost, which is, I believe I have it on my website as, I'm pulling it up so I can look at it. But it goes up in July. So I should make even a more special one for right
Yes,
now.
that's what I'm talking about.
I know. So
Show us the money.
Let's see. I have, why is it not? Thank you for your patience. Well, okay. How do I get, if I were to give you a special code,
Okay.
how would I get? Yeah.
We would just probably just do PR connections or the professionals or the
PR
pros.
connections. I like it. PR
Okay,
connections.
perfect. Yeah, I love that.
And it'll be an extra $400 off.
Wow, that's amazing. So thank you
Yeah.
so much. I'm excited to do that. I'm definitely going to sign up, and that way I can give the feedback to my local friendly podcast watchers. And I'm so excited to hear from you, learn about the grants, and appreciate you taking time out on the Memorial Day weekend. Thank you so much for being on the show. Do you have last words?
Nope. Thank you for inviting me. And there's one last piece. Sometimes when you talk about grants, I think of restaurants, and there's actually a lot of funding for restaurants. I wanted to say that because they want to make sure, local government and federal government wants to make sure that their restaurants are really supported. So.
And you know what? I thank you for saying that, because I have so many restaurants that are struggling. They have not got back up on their feet. So that is great. And I look forward to sending you some referral business. I look forward to hearing how you've helped some of our Las Vegas, Reno, whoever wants to go. This streams all across the nation. So thank you so much for your time, Heather. It was a pleasure talking to you, learning about you. And I'll talk to you soon.
All right. Thanks, Penny.
Thanks. Bye-bye.
All right. Well, way to go, Penny. Miss
Yes,
Professional.
thank you.
You did an excellent job today.
Thank you. It was a lot of fun. And I learned about so many things that I can reach out to local business owners, which is what I'm talking about, collaborate, maybe get some startups. I mean, this is a beautiful thing. We can all look for an infusion of cash, especially if it's community driven. for, places that might need assistance. Like she said, I don't know if you were listening in, but she said the resources like solar, animals, which we all know most folks have some type of pets, the arts, which I'm a big fan of the arts, and mental health, right? We all hear about different things about mental health.
Right. And resources are such an important aspect of business, Penny. It's really right. I mean, you're talking specifically about capital, being able to get a hold of resources in order. And it's not always capital, but of course, anytime you can get a hold of some cash, right, it's always a helpful thing. Generally, it's a very helpful thing for your business. Being able to find resources as a professional is just so valuable. And I think grants are, when used correctly, and when she participated, as you know, Heather was a part of a workshop that we did for the Cause Marketing Chamber of Commerce a couple of months ago. And it was just great to hear the types of resources that were available for someone who wants a grant or who needs that, right? It being the source of information is always a wonderful thing. That's what I really want to say.
And me and you believe in the same thing about businesses collaborating, being part of the community, content marketing, your cause Chamber of Commerce, getting together with nonprofits and businesses. I mean, this could be a win-win and also provide an opportunity for someone to do a startup that works well with a nonprofit in their business. So I was really excited that she was on your show and she was on this Memorial Day weekend. It's great to get the right mindset and have somebody help you collaborate and maybe put you back in business, as they say.
So how about sharing more about your business, Penny, with all of us? I mean, you talk about being a resource. Penny is a woman that you would want to know. She is a real mover and shaker in the business community. Share with us about what you do.
So what I do is I am just basically a neighborhood outreach partner. I go to local network groups, business groups. I also meet with 25 plus businesses out every week, and I learn about what they're doing, what they need, hopefully being able to collaborate with other businesses and help them be successful and build community. Las Vegas, no matter how big we grow, we are still a small town mentality. Your relationship and your reputation is so important. And that's what the podcast is about. My business, which is Desert Foothills Living publication through Best Version Media, it's all about building community, entrepreneur spirit, and creating partnerships with local businesses and local residents. So that's what I'm all about. I've lived in Las Vegas since 1991. I love Las Vegas. I love local businesses. I love nonprofits. And so this forum that you've given me, the podcast, the professionals are there for anyone that wants to, collaborate, talk about community, or show us how they are successful in a very tough economy, in my opinion.
Yeah, and when it comes to professionalism, Penny, when you're, like you mentioned, these are some really interesting times in business. And, for me, I believe that it makes you step your game up, right, to another level. The whole reason, again, we developed the platform of the professionals is to help people to step their game up so they can be more successful in their endeavors in business. And so what about you in terms of the professionalism, right? When things are tough and people are choosing between you or someone else, what is your perspective on professionalism and the role that it plays and whether you get the job or not?
You have to pivot, number one. And number two, you have to build that relationship, and know could possibly mean a no for right now. You really don't know where the no comes from. The no could be because their son just got in a car accident and now their mind is, oh my goodness, The no could be that new management is here and so now your hands are tied. So I always tell people, be honest, be willing to empower the business that you're talking to, and create a partnership. We always talk about in networking, who are your power partners? So I have a couple power partners. They don't do business with me. I send them a lot of referrals, but you have to be in it for the long run. That person that you spoke to 1 year might have a new owner and you have to circle back around, right? So you just need to keep top of mind, and that's what my publication talks about. You have to do something you have to be consistent. You have to be top of mind. You have to have those people call you and ask you, hey, Penny, who did you refer me again? Thank you for that referral. Hey, Penny, I'm ready for you to come back in. So as a professional, you have to remember not to take it personal. That's the hard part for me, not to take it personal. They said no. You have to have the right mindset. You have to pivot. You have to continue on. You have to be consistent and just provide the professional face at all times and try not to make it personal.
Yeah, the professional development is so huge, Penny. And again, I really appreciate your willingness to come over to this network and host this podcast. I feel that it's important. There's so much of a need out there for personal and professional growth. All of the efforts that you put into this, right? Growing as a professional, knowing how to keep your cool, knowing how to not take it personal. These are things that sometimes we have to work at, right? It doesn't always happen naturally. And with a platform like this and some of the other things that we're going to be doing with the professionals platform, I think that there are a lot of business owners and professionals out there who are going to find tremendous benefit. And I've got all the information about your business up here if they want to get in contact with you. And you're just a wonderful resource in the community. I'm really looking forward to watching your podcast grow.
Yes, thank you. So stay tuned and come see me again at the Professionals the first and third Wednesday of every month at 10:15. So just put your clock on for 10 o'clock and then make your pot of coffee if it's the second pot. And I will talk to you with my guests every first and third Wednesday of the month, and hopefully make it entertaining, educational, and inspirational. Thank you, Guy.
Like a true marketer, she plugs her show on the air. That's what it's all about, Penny.
Yes, that's what I was told to do.
All right. Enjoy your day, Penny.
Thank you. Happy Memorial Day. Thanks. Bye-bye.
All right. For those of you who are just tuning in, this is the PRConnectionsRadio.com, the Voice of New Media Marathon. You just watched the Professionals podcast, and we have got a variety of shows that are going to air on the network today. The next show, and I'm going to bring the hostess on, is my good friend Evelyn Pacheco with Evelyn's Roundtable.
Hi.
Welcome to the show, Evelyn.
Well, hello there. You look wide-eyed and bushy-tailed from coming off vacation.
Yes, I just enjoyed it. I had a great time over in Hawaii, and I'm ready to take on the world now, Evelyn.
Isn't that something, how you feel like that when you come back? Yes, beautiful feeling.
Yeah, so how have you been? Tell me about Evelyn's Roundtable. How are things going with your podcast?
I think it's going beautiful. I am on the first Wednesday and the third Wednesday of the month at 7 p.m. And we're talking about topics that involve women in non-traditional careers and subjects. And we're involving the community partners we have out here. And because it's really important to talk right? And to get down to the basics of Nevada and what we're doing here, and the hope and the history. So I like what I'm doing. I thank you to Guy for pointing this out, that this is something that I should be doing because of the platform. I help women get in the trades, and I think it's beautiful to give back and to help.
Yeah, empowering women as a leader and others, Evelyn, is something I know that you're very passionate about, and you do it at a lot of levels. And it's been great to watch you flourishing as a podcaster. Just with each podcast, I can just see you talk about enthusiasm and interest. I mean, when I watch you interview people, you really are passionate about their success, and it's infectious.
Yes, because we have to have real people with real conversation about what's happening in Nevada, in Clark County, in the rural area. I mean, we really have to start doing that, right? And make sure voting, early voting, everybody. Make sure we all vote. That's the other part I want to stick in there real quick. Early voting started yesterday, so make sure you vote. Doesn't matter what side it is, who it is, just make sure you vote. That's very important to do that.
All right, Evelyn, I'm going to remove myself and give you an opportunity to broadcast Evelyn's Roundtable.
Thank you
soon.
So much.
PR Connections Radio presents.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to Evelyn's Roundtable. This podcast highlights a host of relevant topics. Our conversations share voices of women of color, Black women veterans and veterans, allies, candidates, and elected officials, entrepreneurs, teachers, students, and others. We also explore important issues and challenges such as grassroots leadership, job training, homelessness, and mental health advocacy, accountability, male inclusion, and civics. Our mission statement is to empower all women. You hear me? All women to hold hands as we rise. Well, morning, Miss Clay T.D. White. I am just so honored to have you on here. And I've been chasing you for a little while, and because I done heard all the great things about you, and I just know I had to have you on here today on this marathon because you know the history. You are the history, actually, of the state of Nevada. And I just thought it'd be great as a Black woman in this state to let everybody know who you are and what you do and everything. So can you please just tell us a little bit about yourself?
Well, thank you so much for having me. So I work at the Oral History Research Center at UNLV. Started that center about 20 years ago, a little more than that now, but have had the opportunity to interview people here in Southern Nevada, all kinds of people, lots and lots of women. So it's an honor to share some of those stories with you today.
Oh, yes. Looking forward to that. And so you said 20 years ago, that's almost about the same time I came here to Vegas myself. And it was interesting because I was just planning on stopping for a little while, right? I wasn't planning on staying here. I was on my way to Arizona, even though there was no family there. I was just on my way to do something different and all of that. So 20 years ago, what was it like? Because it's different than now, right? It's a whole different vibe.
So 20 years ago is when the Oral History Research Center started. but I really arrived here in 1992. So, and completely different, just completely different. We didn't have the Bellagio. So think about the Las Vegas Strip. We didn't have the Palazzo, the Venetian, Wynn. So completely different place.
Yes, I would think so. When I got here, we had, let's see, Harrah's was where Mandalay Bay was. It was a whole different
Hacienda.
Hacienda. Yes, thank you for the correction. Hacienda was there. Actually, I stayed there at the Hacienda, and it was. You're right. It was Riviera was down the street, and all of that. So that's total different vibe. So as far as Black women, who was at that time either running or in positions of power?
So, wow. If I would have known this question in advance, I could have answered it for you. We did have a Black woman on the county commission at the time. So there were Blacks in power, but let me tell you about some Black people who were here early on in history.
Thank you.
So the first woman that really ran for office was Sarah Ann Knight Preddy, ran for mayor back in the 1950s. So most people don't even remember that campaign. The campaign was run by her friend Alice Key. So both of them early Black women here in the city. But to go even farther back, we had women who helped to start the city. When Blacks migrated here back in 1905, as the city was beginning, we know a woman named Mary Nettles, who was one of the founders of the NAACP in 1928. Wow. And that woman was really well known because she owned lots of property downtown on Block 17. At that time, Blacks could only live in and around Block 17.
Which is
the block that is diagonal from the Mob Museum today. So if you're standing on the steps of the Mob Museum and you look to your right, which is southwest, it's that block. It is the block where Triple George is located today, that restaurant. So that is where Block 17 is and was at that time, at the beginning of the city.
Wow. So how did the movement move towards what they call the West Side? How did that move them back to that?
So expansion.
Yes.
So think about 1931, the building of Hoover Dam. Lots and lots of people migrating to the city and not having enough space. So whites began to move eastward and told the Black community to move across the tracks to the West Side, that area. Today we call it the West Side. At that time, it was just across the tracks. And so that's how that started. And Blacks moved across the tracks, took their businesses and moved them across the tracks. It is said that at the time that the city was not going to renew business license if Blacks did not move across the tracks. So that gave them a push to move their homes and their businesses to the West Side area.
Wow. And even over there now, so if we go back 10 years, maybe 10 years from this date, can you tell us a little bit about the history over there on the West Side and things that were happening on the Strip for as far as Blacks being able to go through the front doors of the hotels? And
so you want to go back farther than 10 years. You want to go back to the 1940s, 50s, and 60s. The Strip started back in the late 1940s. We get places like the El Rancho and So
Mhm.
those kind of early places that start the strip. African American women began to work in the back of the house of those places. You get the Thunderbird, and then you get the Flamingo. So Black women are working in the back of the house. Black men who work on the strip are also working in the back of the house. They are porters. The women are the maids and the linen room workers. So,
Wow.
and the entertainers that are coming here in the late 40s and the 50s, those entertainers like Nat King Cole and Sammy Davis Jr. and all of them, they have to enter the back doors as well. Not just the people who are working in the back of the house, but all Blacks entered the back doors.
Wow. So wasn't there a date when they were able to enter the front door?
So integration starts here in March of 1960. That's when integration takes place. And after that, Blacks began to be able to enter those places through the front doors. They also can now gamble, they can go to dinner, and they can go to shows on the strip. But they can't work the jobs that pay the money that we hear people talking about. That doesn't happen until 1971. A consent decree is passed, giving Blacks 12% of jobs in just a whole array of categories that they can now apply for and begin to work in.
Consent decree was that through the city, or was that something that was like a bill that was in the Constitution, or
Through the federal courts.
oh my goodness.
So we had a Black attorney who had moved here in 1959. His name was Charles Keller. And Charles Keller is the one who brought that action that mandated 12% of jobs to Blacks. Later on, it changes to minorities. But at first, it was actually Blacks for those jobs.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Interesting. So why do you think it changed to minorities versus just Blacks?
Because people of color could not apply for certain jobs at the time. So they broadened it to include other groups of color.
Oh, wow.
Mm-hmm.
That's deep right there. Wow.
Our history is deep.
Yes, it is here in Vegas. Oh my goodness. And this is why I have her on here, everyone, because this is knowledge. I mean, I knew of some of the knowledge, but now we have names to put in faces and like you said, the expansion of the West Side, which to me still has not expanded. The West Side to me.
So I was talking about the expansion of downtown that drove people out. That became a business hub in the downtown area. So whites began to move out when downtown began to expand. Whites moved out to the east. Their homes, businesses stayed in that area. Blacks moved to the west side. So the west side itself in the 1940s did begin to expand. We can see the businesses that were there, the boarding houses. You had to have boarding houses because people coming here for divorces or to see friends or to entertain on the Las Vegas Strip and downtown, they had to have a place to stay. So we began to have boarding houses on the west side. And then since Blacks could not enjoy the entertainment of the Strip and downtown, we see early cocktail lounges, places where people could go to hear music, to dance, and to gamble, right there on Jackson Avenue, some on D Street, some on E Street, and some on F. But that hub of the business corridor that is still there today, it is not vibrant any longer, has not been vibrant since the 1980s. Various forces invaded the community. And this happened in Black communities in lots of cities across the country. Crack cocaine came in. We already had redlining, so Blacks had to live in those areas. And now we get integration and we get jobs in the 1970s. So when you get jobs that pay a decent amount of money, Blacks start moving outward now to the greater Las Vegas area. Because
is that too why Moulin Rouge came about? Is because of what you're talking about?
No, the Moulin Rouge came about in 1955. Okay, and that came about because it was the first integrated upscale casino hotel here in the city.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so that's why that came about. Lots of competition. We hear stories of money going out the back door. And that is one of the topics that I cannot talk a lot about because I am under contract.
Darn it.
Yes.
Darn it. But even now with the West Side, there is a lot of housing being built, and there is some changes being made. And Historical West Side School, can you talk a little bit about that? That's coming a long way too.
So that West Side School started in 1923. We just had the 100th celebration of that school last year. And it was a festival. It was amazing. Native Americans were part of the festival because those kids attended school at the West Side School. There were still some white people in the area that attended school there. And you had Blacks attending school there, and probably some Mexican students also at that time. So it was a wonderful mix of students at the West Side School.
Well, yes. Yeah, it is. It's still, I mean, it's so intact, you know,
but
it's so intact.
Well, it was completely renovated in, I think it was 2014. It was completely renovated up to the standards because it's on the National Register of Historic Places. So it was brought back to its prominence by architects in the area who specialize in upgrading historic locations. They did all of that work. That's why it's so beautiful. So if you go in and you see the floors, the same floors as there were in 1923 building and in the buildings that were built in the 1940s. You see the same light fixtures that were used then. It's just an amazing place. And the way they did the outside, the trees and the yards, it's going to be beautiful for weddings and all kinds of things.
It is. If you haven't been over there and you are in the Clark County area and over there by Washington, D, it is a beautiful historic building. And they even have a room where you can go in there and look at the timeline of how everything happened. And that is it was another eye opener for me to know that, oh, wow, I didn't know that. And I think that's the importance of having Evelyn's Roundtable, is to bring back the empowering of the women and the men too that are here in this state. And I want to talk about some of the women that we both know that have played a legacy, not just women we have talked about, but have played a legacy. And now we know, then I known her as Councilwoman Pamela Goins Brown, but now she's the mayor, and she's played a big part in Nevada Women in Trade. She's played a big part in pushing, I think, the business side of North Las Vegas. Can you talk a little bit about her?
Well, I can talk just a tiny bit about her, but I interviewed her mother and father years ago. So she is a chip off of the block, off of that block of education and business acumen and political education. They lived in an area that was called, what was it called? Something like the Education Street or something. Living in North Las Vegas early on, her mother and father were in the school system. We have photographs here in special collections at UNLV, but it shows the dedication to education and to politics. Her father was on the city council in North Las Vegas before she was. So it runs in the family, this caring, this legacy of community building.
And then we can go right into Miss Tolan.
Yes.
Miss Helen Tolan. Oh my goodness. She just had her 98th birthday. I can't even, oh my gosh.
So she was the first Black woman to be a principal of a school. That school, it was Kit Carson, but the school is now named for her.
Yes.
Uh-huh.
Yes.
And she talks in her interview about not having the same resources as other schools in the community, but how she made it work, how she sold popcorn, how she did whatever she had to do so that her students could also get to see the world. If it was nothing but taking a train ride from here to Pahrump, or here to, not Pahrump, to here to State Line, but getting the kids out of the West Side so that they could begin to experience other areas, and taking them to Disneyland so that they could get to see what's available here in this part of the country.
And that's so important too. And her house is going to be left for historicals too, right? Her house, she's leaving her house to the Historical of Nevada.
Well, she has a foundation, and there are members of the foundation who will continue to run that house. And she'll probably house all of her books and papers right there in the house. I'm hoping that they make it available to researchers so that people can go in and actually conduct research about education in Las Vegas.
Which is very important here. Education plays a big part in everything. The youth is very important, everybody. I mean, even MLK, he was talking about the youth. And so youth play a big part, and education plays a big part in what we're doing. I know at her house, in the front of her house, she has a whole African statues, and she walks you through and tells the story of her statues that she has in front of her house. And it's such a beautiful story about family and relationships and that. And you go in her house, and you're right, it's full of books, and she's always want to say, here, read this. And so I've gotten a few books from her too. Cast is one of the books that I gotten from her, and I had her sign it, and that it was from her. And so I know that's an important book too.
That was a fabulous book. And also the book that Isabel Wilkinson wrote prior to Cast. She wrote a book called Other Sons. What was it called? I can't remember the complete title now, but she talks about the migration of Blacks out of the South and how they dispersed across the country. And that book was her first one, and then Cast was her second one. So one of these days, when you're ready to dive into a book about 500 pages, read her first book as well. It's amazing.
Yes, they're doing some type of movie right now, right? Isn't Ava doing something about in relationship to? That's what I thought.
Yes, she's doing something with the book Cast.
Yes, that's what I thought. Very important to know where you come, to know where you're going. Very important, everybody. And then some of the veteran women, and I just want to talk about the veteran women that have been doing some things here. And Clara Thomas, she's been there, and Senator Spearman has been doing some beautiful things. We have Shaquila, who is part of American Legion Post 10, and she's doing some great things. And Belinda T. Harris, who is the judge in North Las Vegas, first Black woman to make judge on the West Side. There's just in Michonne, she's running. She's a Black woman veteran, And it's just being this Memorial Weekend that we give tribute to our veterans, which I'm a veteran, disabled vet, but it's important to give tribute to our Black women veteran too here in Nevada that are really pushing and in the leadership positions. And it's just a blessing to have you on here. Do you have any books, any special you want to say about any other thing that we missed? Or
I don't know how much time we have, but there is a book that Joy Reid just wrote. It's about Medgar Evers and his wife, Myrlie. It is a wonderful book that it's an easy read with wonderful, deep research about living in the South and what happened. So you get to see bits and pieces of the civil rights movement from a different angle and a different person, using the lens of the NAACP, but looking through the eyes of Medgar Evers. And it is just a magnificent book. And there's so many others out now, but that's probably one of the most recent ones that I've read. And I just think that we should give that book a look.
Okay. Can you say one more time, please, for our audience so we know what book you're talking about?
Yeah, the book is by Joy Reid, and it is about Myrlie and Medgar Evers. He was assassinated in Mississippi during the Civil Rights Movement. And so that's what that book is about. But it is about his love for this country and his love for Mississippi that makes it, she writes it as a love story between the two of them and between them and a place. So it's just well done. It's a different angle. And I've really appreciated what she has done with her research.
And I'm glad you did touch on something, the NAACP here in Nevada too. We didn't hit on that. Can you hit on that really quick too?
Well, so I mentioned that Mary Nettles, that early woman who owned lots of properties here, that she was one of the 5 founders of the NAACP. And it started in 1928. As you know, that the national NAACP started in 1909, but we get our branch in 1928. And they become active relatively quickly. People at that time were very small area. Everybody knew everybody. They held meetings. They used the churches early on. Most of the meetings were in the churches. It graduated to finally the NAACP having its own office. But the NAACP has been very, very powerful here, helping Blacks with job initiatives, integration, all of that. They were always there. Integration takes place here in 1960 because the NAACP in New York sends out a demand across the country to all branches to up-level what you are doing toward integration. And our president at that time was the first Black dentist, James B. McMillan. And he sent a letter to the mayor of the city. And he said, within the next 2 weeks, if this city isn't integrated, we're going to march on the Las Vegas Strip on a Saturday night. So that's why integration comes without a lot of severe protests and dogs and water hoses. We don't see any of that in Las Vegas. We see a relatively smooth integration effort here.
Okay. Wow. See, this is why I wanted you on here. And then I'm just going to bring up something, A. Philip Randolph.
Okay.
There's a chapter here now in the state of Nevada. And
the Brotherhood of...
A. Philip Randolph was the first porter in transportation in Alabama, right? So there's a chapter here that's starting, and it's interesting that you would bring up about making sure that we are still integrating with jobs too, right? Still making sure we still have Blacks that are still being able to get in unions and be able to self-support. And just the big part too is to be able to buy a house, buy a car, be part of society. And also the jails is another recidivism here in this state, to make sure that we are doing our part in that, to make sure that we have lawyers. And that's why I brought up Belinda D. Harris as being the first Black woman to be a judge
So,
over North Las Vegas.
so A. Philip Randolph was the one who did the Brotherhood of Sleeping Car Porters.
Yes, there's some other things.
Yes. So that's what he was known for. And his leadership also takes him to that civil rights movement. He was one of the people who, I'm not sure if he spoke when Martin Luther King did the I Have a Dream speech. A. Philip Randolph was there. He was one of those planners. He was one of the people who was very, very well known and well respected at that time. So yeah, a union person to his core.
There we go.
Mhm.
There we go. Yes, that's why it's so beautiful to bring, but not only bring, but have a chapter here. Very important. And it's here now. And
a chapter of
APRI, A. Philip Randolph Institute, has a chapter here now.
Oh, really?
Yes, yes. And I'm on the executive board. I'm the secretary. And there's a few of us that are really excited and about getting the information out and making sure that we still have inclusion, because that's a big part of this, right? And so, yes. Wow, this has been beautiful to have you on here and to talk, especially about the history of Nevada, because a lot of times, again, even the kids, I'm gonna go back to the kids that don't know about the history of Nevada and don't even know that, this weekend you need to think about why you're walking around, because of those that have served. And Blacks have served a long time in history of military. My family go all the way back to Civil War. I found out my family.
So, and the Memorial Day honors those who passed away. And so that is very, very powerful. So your family in the Civil War, I'm sure I had some back there as well.
Of course.
But it is important to honor them. I have a brother who's passed away who served a career in the military. So yeah, when we go to our churches today, a lot of people have all the vets and their families stand up and talk about the ones who passed away. That is very important.
Yes, my dad, Alan Curtis Ross, was in the Korean War. He was in the Air Force, and my brother was Coast Guard. So Mark Ross. So yes, I honor all of them, my uncles, and I honor them, yes, that are passed away.
Yes.
So thank you so much for this. And I just want everybody to know to please tune in with Evelyn's Roundtable on not March, but the 1st and the 3rd Wednesday of every month. We have a different topic. We have beautiful women like Clayton D. White come on and give us some history. And again, our mission statement is we're about empowering women to hold hands as we rise. And that's our mission statement. And thank you for being on here. And I appreciate you so much. And I want you to come back on Evelyn's Roundtable, not just here, right? I want you to come back.
Just let me know and I will try to be here.
And thank you for that part.
You're welcome. Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you. Thank you. All right. So we're going to finish this and keep going. And this is beautiful to be on here because it really gets you to thinking about things that are happening. And that's why I brought up APRI, because we have to stay in inclusion mode to make sure that we are staying part of history, because Black people played a big part of history in Nevada, and I really want to keep it going. So thank you, guys.
Yeah, Clay T is an absolute treasure, Evelyn. So when I heard that you were going to be having her on today, I was just really thrilled. Clay T has had a lot to do with, I think, this community understanding more about the contributions of African Americans to the growth of Vegas. I mean, it's I'm just so glad that she stopped by today. And you were talking about A. Philip Randolph Institute. You and I are both members. I'm the president of A. Philip Randolph Institute Las Vegas, and we're just we're really excited about the opportunity to. It's all about empowerment, right, Evelyn, and studying history. That's one of the things that I always really have appreciated about Clay T. is, as someone who really, I love history, and I think change is built through understanding history. And it's just such an honor to be a part of the A. Philip Randolph Institute. And as you know, we got big things in the works.
Yeah, we do. Yes, we do. And just this is such, like I said, Memorial Weekend. And yesterday I went out to the cemetery in Boulder City and put flags in all the gravestones, and I got pictures on it, and it was breezy. The flags were blowing just right. It was something. My great uncle was out there. So yes, it was beautiful. Yes.
Well, thank you for being a part of the marathon. One more time, Evelyn, how can people tune in to Evelyn's Roundtable?
Well, thank you. Like I said, our mission statement is to empower women and hold hands as we rise. And we are on the 1st and the 3rd Wednesday at 7 p.m. Please come and join us and listen. Like I said, we're having real conversation like today. Got to be about real conversation, everybody. We can't be having a whatever you want to call it. We got to talk real. If we're going to do this, let's do it right.
Right. Well, keep inspiring, Evelyn. And again, thank you for participating in the marathon. And I see nothing but big things for your podcast, the growth, and I'm really looking forward to the guests that you have coming on soon.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Appreciate it.
All right. Well, we are at the halfway point of this marathon, and we're going to take a short break. And we're going to return with the second half of PRConnectionsRadio.com, the voice of new media's Memorial Day weekend marathon. And we hope you have been enjoying the podcasts that have been on so far. We still got Dana Does Voices. We've got Vegas Hockey Hub. And we've got, to round us out today, we got a brand new podcast called Thinking into Results. And for those of you who want to have a better life or who are really into personal and professional development, you're going to want to stick around for that particular podcast. But of course, the second half will start up soon. So stay tuned for part 2 of PRConnectionsRadio.com's Marathon, Memorial Weekend Marathon. I am Guy Dawson, and I'm looking forward to being your host for the second half. See you soon.
PR Connections Radio thanks you for watching this podcast. Check out more episodes of this show and our others at prconnectionsradio.com.